A supermodel who is arguably one of the most widely known faces and bodies of the 1990s. A mother of four who set a new standard for how to be a working, get-everything-done mom. A sweet personality, loved by everyone, but with a dark side? Why so much controversy, arrests, divorces, lawsuits, substance abuse? Folks, it just doesn't add up. Let's look behind the curtain to see if we can uncover new truths. Stephanie Seymour, supermodel, supermom, super controversial, the Raven and the Sparrow. Stephanie Michelle Seymour was born July 23, 1968, in San Diego, California. Stephanie's father, Conrad, was a real estate developer, and her mother, Margaret, was a hairstylist. Stephanie was a middle child. She had a good relationship with her older sister Kelly and her younger brother Lance. Growing up, her cousin Will was always a close friend. He is now a comedian in the LA area. Stephanie's mother seemed to harbor some appreciation for the arts, in particular photography and modeling. Although Stephanie had what most would consider an unremarkable early childhood, she did a few beauty pageants and was eager to grow out of that common adolescent awkward phase. It was in 1982 that she competed in the very first Elite Model Management Look of the Year contest. Over 23,000 girls entered, and Stephanie was one of the lucky few who made it into the regional finals, which were held in a shopping mall in San Diego. The head of Elite Model Management was the famous John Casablancas. During the contest, he took special notice of Stephanie's mom, Margaret, who he later called in an interview absolutely ravishing. As Margaret and Stephanie met and talked with John, they knew he would be a valuable contact given Stephanie's aspirations to get into the modeling world. Stephanie didn't win the contest, but the exposure and notoriety led to many local modeling jobs, and she kept the contact with Casablancas going. John took quite an interest in Stephanie. He ended up taking her to Acapulco for the finals of that contest, and she then traveled to New York with him. Shortly afterwards, Stephanie moved to New York to pursue modeling full-time. The two began dating quietly, this despite the fact that John was married to Jeanette Christensen, and incredibly, he was 42 years old at the time, while Stephanie was 15. This ultimately led to the breakup of John's marriage and subsequent divorce. Once they stopped hiding their feelings, John met Stephanie's family. He worked hard to charm them and to prove to Stephanie's dad, in particular, that he was not a creep. Stephanie's dad kept his cool, but he told her that she was making a mistake with the older man. Stephanie and John's relationship lasted 2 years. It was quite a controversy then, and even more difficult to understand or accept today. Stephanie, in some ways, ended up outgrowing John. Although he had single-handedly launched the modeling career she was so eager for, she ultimately preferred to spend time with her friends her own age. It is interesting that John went on to marry Aline Wormeringer in 1993. At that time, Aline was 17 and John was 50. Throughout the 1980s, Stephanie's career was in overdrive. This photo is one of the first ones of her professional modeling career published by Elite Agency in New York. She was in countless advertisements and campaigns, and she started landing magazine covers. She posed for Sports Illustrated's swimsuit issue in February of 1988. The first swimsuit issue launched in 1964 for SI and had become a cultural phenomenon. This cross-pollinated Stephanie's personal brand, putting her in front of the very hungry and appreciative eyes of male sports fans. In the late 1980s and early 90s, SI had a circulation of around 3 million magazines per week. It was an enormous boost to her image and popularity. The shoot was done in Thailand, not the first or the last exotic location for Stephanie. In 1989, at the age of 21, she married Tommy Andrews, a guitarist. They had one son together, Dylan, but their relationship was short-lived. They divorced in 1990. After being cast for a music video for the band Guns N' Roses in 1991, she began dating another rock and roller, lead singer Axl Rose. Axl was born in 1962, so he was 6 years her senior. This continued a pattern of Stephanie pursuing older men. Axl and Stephanie split in 1993. It was very public and very messy, with lawsuits and counter-lawsuits. Stephanie accused Axl of being physically abusive, and he accused her of stealing jewelry and other items from him. Yet another controversy, which we will see throughout her life and career. She was also connected to Warren Beatty in 1991. Beatty was born in 1937, so he was 31 years her senior. Headstrong and not shy about her body, Stephanie chose to pose for Playboy magazine in 1991. It was 1992 when the video for Guns N' Roses' song November Rain was released. It was a long epic, one of the most expensive music videos ever shot, and received critical acclaim at the time. The videos for the songs Don't Cry and Estranged were released shortly after that, which Stephanie also starred in. Around this time, Stephanie began posing for Victoria's Secret. This lingerie business sent out its first mail-order catalog in 1977. By 1997, 20 years later, they were sending out an incredible 450 million catalogs a year, generating $661 million in mail-order revenue alone. Catalogs were typically mailed out 6 times per year. This practice ceased in 2016, although at the time they were still distributing over 300 million copies a year. Stephanie has said about that time that she initially struggled to do fashion shows and runways, occasionally canceling at the last minute. The glitz and the glamour of photo shoots could morph into chaos and a different kind of pressure for the runway. She experienced panic attacks, and it took some time for her to grow comfortable with the medium. In 1993, she posed for Playboy magazine yet again. Also in 1993, she began dating Peter Brant. Although it is infrequently discussed, Peter was married to Sandra Sims Brant at the time and had children. Peter and Sandra were married from 1969 to 1995. Brant was known for being extremely wealthy. He actually grew up with Donald Trump. He was an avid art collector who owned a polo team and a horse ranch, and owned various newspaper and magazine companies. Stephanie and Peter had their first son, Peter Jr., December 2nd, 1993. In 1994, Stephanie appeared in a live-action video game called Hell, a cyberpunk thriller. Stephanie and Peter married in Paris in 1995 after Peter filed for divorce from Sandra. They followed this up with a civil ceremony a year later in Florida. They gave birth to a second son, Harry, in 1996. In 1998, Stephanie published a book, Stephanie Seymour's Beauty Secrets for Dummies. In 2000, she was in the movie Pollock as Helen Frankenthaler. Also in 2000, she was ranked number 91 on the North American FHM 100 Sexiest Women list. In 2002, she did a guest appearance on the TV show Law & Order: Criminal Intent as Sarah Lindstrom. Stephanie and Peter gave birth to their daughter, Lily, in 2004. In 2006, Stephanie posed in a campaign for Gap with her children. After being together for 16 years and being married for 14, Stephanie filed for divorce in 2009. This was a bit of a shock to both the public and their friends and family, as their marriage seemed to be on solid ground. The divorce got messy fast. There were accusations of infidelity on both sides. Random drug testing was implemented to monitor both parties, as there were accusations of drug abuse. It was revealed that Stephanie was treated for addiction to Vicodin in 2000. Shockingly, it was also revealed that Stephanie had lavish and extreme spending habits and averaged around $257,000 per month. This is equivalent to around $378,000 per month in today's dollars. At the time, their divorce paperwork showed Peter claiming assets worth $490 million and a monthly income of $1.5 million. They had a staff of 7 at their main home, with an additional 15 people working for them nearby at the farm. Also in 2009, Stephanie was involved in an altercation and a subsequent legal battle with a private security guard Peter was planning to hire for his estate. The 50-year-old guard, Joseph Babnick, was charged with disorderly conduct when Stephanie and an assistant claimed he shoved her into a door at their home. Babnick countersued Stephanie, saying she slammed a door on him and took some of his paperwork. Peter and Stephanie apparently found the love again as they walked hand in hand into a courtroom in 2010 and announced that they were ready to reconcile and drop the divorce. The incident with the guard was settled out of court at the same time. The couple are still together today. Also in 2010, there was a controversy over excessive PDA, or public display of affection, with her 18-year-old son, Peter Jr. While on vacation in St. Bart's, the two were photographed kissing on the lips, hugging, and it even appeared his hand brushed against her breast. Peter Jr. and Stephanie were ridiculed on social media, but Peter in particular pushed back, at times saying that because he was gay, a close physical relationship with his mother should be seen through an entirely different lens. In 2013, Interview magazine published a great discussion with Stephanie. In 2014, she was named a global spokesmodel for Estee Lauder. That same year, Peter Jr. was ticketed for marijuana possession. In January of 2016, Stephanie was arrested by Connecticut State Police on suspicion of DUI. This occurred after she had backed her Land Rover into another car at a stop sign. Police claimed they smelled a strong odor of alcohol and had to ask Stephanie for her license and registration 6 or 7 times. If that wasn't controversial enough, there was another crazy twist to this case. Police were later called to a scene a short distance away from Stephanie's home where an automobile had apparently run into and damaged a telephone pole. Parts were found around the telephone pole that were matched up to Stephanie's damaged Range Rover. Both the accident and the DUI charges were subsequently dismissed in 2017, when Stephanie completed a year-long probation program that included counseling and treatment. Peter Jr. was also arrested in 2016 for drunken disorderly conduct and assaulting a police officer during an incident at JFK Airport. In 2017, Stephanie co-founded the Raven and Sparrow line of lingerie. This was a partnership with Barney's department store in New York. Dolly Parton was a childhood hero to Stephanie. The name for Raven and Sparrow comes from Dolly's songs about the duality of feminism. A raven who is dark and mysterious juxtaposed with a sparrow who is light and innocent. I feel like this is the perfect analogy for Stephanie. She knows herself all too well, and with this name and this explanation, she is explaining to her fans and maybe to the world what she is and why she is the way she is. Sometimes she seems to be the raven, sometimes she seems to be the sparrow. Always she is both. In 2021, in an incredibly tragic turn of events, Stephanie and Peter's son Harry died from an overdose. He had struggled with substance abuse, and the accident and his death deeply affected Stephanie and the rest of the family. They have all struggled in the years since with their grief, posting remembrances and slowly opening up to interviewers about their pain and their feelings. In 2023, Peter and Stephanie were in the news for listing their mansion in Palm Beach for $28 million, but it is actually only one of the 2 they own there. In January of 2025, an article in the Palm Beach Daily News noted that Stephanie and Peter would win an award from the Preservation Foundation of Palm Beach for the restoration and renovation of their 1924 mansion there. It is safe to say that Stephanie has always had a thing for older guys, acknowledging that she may have been involved in relationships that weren't publicized and we don't know about. Each of her public relationships has been with an older and in some cases a much older man. She said in an interview that dating Axl Rose knocked her out of her rock and roll groupie phase, and getting together with Peter both introduced her and changed her into a more cultured, artsy life. We could play armchair psychologist and infer that women who chase older men have a daddy complex. It really is hard to understand how Stephanie could have become romantically involved with Casablancas when she was 15, or at least how it could have lasted for so long. We shouldn't judge, but how could her parents let that happen? Regardless, Stephanie's relationships with her parents seem to be okay. We saw her wishing her dad a happy Father's Day in 2018 in this Instagram post. Similarly, we saw her wishing her mom a happy Mother's Day in this 2019 post. There have been many questions and rumors about Stephanie's net worth. That topic became somewhat irrelevant once she met her second husband, Peter, as money more or less ceased to become an issue. As we saw in the divorce paperwork back in 2009, they are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Stephanie has obviously aged beautifully and in some ways, excluding the drama and controversies and arrests, gracefully. She was raised in a household that was really strict about junk food. She never indulges in junk food, but does enjoy standard American fare on occasion. She has mentioned in interviews cheeseburgers, mashed potatoes with gravy, and milkshakes. She has never been one who over-exercises, but she has mentioned she does Pilates, swimming, and walking. She enjoys gardening and walking her dogs to relax. We have seen Stephanie smoking cigarettes many times over the years, and of course we know from incidents, arrests, and court documents that she has struggled with various substance abuse issues, as have other members of her family, tragically. There was always more than met the eye with Stephanie. She was beautiful, of course, and had an otherworldly body, but these still photos don't do her justice. She has always had a charisma, a magnetism that came across so much more strongly in person. The trouble that she's had with substance abuse, infidelity, arrests, and lawsuits, she comes across as incredibly poised, serene, at peace. She invariably comes across as intelligent, authentic, and incredibly likable. We are left to conclude that apparently she is both the raven and the sparrow.